Like everybody else, I was looking forward to 2020 Formula 1 season, but since that got postponed for some reason, I started watching old races and realized something: a lot of these companies sponsoring these cars don't exist anymore. Shady money has been part of Formula 1 DNA for a long time, and with 490 million people watching, there's no question why shady companies want to get their name on the side of a race car. What the heck are these companies do? Are they even real? Where do they get their money? In this episode, we're gonna look at some of the sketchiest, literally unbelievable companies that have a stake in Formula 1 racing. And don't worry, there is an ingredient breeze involved with one of them. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. The cost of racing is insane. Formula 1 teams require hundreds of millions of dollars in order to compete every season. The amount of funding a team can secure directly correlates to how much a team wins. That's just how F1 works. It's the way most sport works. Frankly, more money, better engines, better drivers, Papa Jones. Just baseball, the governing body of F1 and FIA, or Federation International Automobile Federation in English, very strictly regulates car technology to maintain as such of an even playing field on the track as possible, but then historically haven't done much to balance the money side out, kind of like how small market teams in America don't get as a big budget as the big market teams like the Yankees versus the Orioles or the Lakers versus the Kings. Formula 1 will have a budget cap for the first time starting 2021. But historically speaking, there's always been a big gap in the budgets between the highest earning teams and the lowest. Case in point, Mercedes Petronas spent in post 2019 with $484 million, while is almost 3 times as much as the Williams team spent in the same time frame. This was less than their previous year budget of $150 million because Williams lost their title sponsor, Martini and Rossi, a company that produced Vermouth, a sweet liquor made from wine. Side note, their stuff is actually pretty cheap though. For sure that the company sponsoring F1 team would have some really luxurious stuff, but it's like $150 a bottle. Anyway, Williams still has to compete with Mercedes despite the fact that they're working with $350 million less than Mercedes. Suffice to say, a sponsor dropout can cripple or even doom teams, which is why sometimes F1 team ends up with less than reputable backers. One recent example that Formula 1 fans remember is the Rich Energy fiasco from last year. The only American-owned team in Formula 1 right now is Haas, and they fell victim to the shady sponsorship situation of 2019 Rich Energy, a sleek new energy drink with antlers for logo, became the title sponsor for the Haas team. It turned out for another F1 team, the Force India team dismissed Rich Energy for lacking substance before they went with the Canadian billionaire Lawrence Stroll's money. Then Williams was actually about to ink a deal with Rich Energy, but they didn't show up. Supposedly, Williams' story Rich Energy CEO and Rowley for Imagine Dragons set up a meeting with millions, but never made it to said meeting. Then a few days passed. The news came out that he signed that Haas that should have been a red flag for Haas, but there's actually a third red flag: the fact that there was no product at a certain point in 2019 season. People on F1 forum and Reddit realized that they had never seen a can of Rich Energy in real life. When grilled about the legitimacy of his company, story further confused everybody when he told motorsport.com that when people say that rich energy doesn't exist, that's like, quote, saying men never walk on the moon or that Elvis is still alive. Dude, there are easier ways of telling people that you have a product and your company is a real company. Okay, there just are. Then someone dug up financial statement from the company that showed their bank account had a 581 British pound or $770 total. Maybe the real start of this story happened in July 10 of 2019, where the story went rogue and tweeted out, quote, "Today, Rich Energy terminated our contract with Haas F1 for poor performance. I guess you can get fired if you quit." That was the news not only to Haas but everyone at Rich Energy. They tried to force Story out of the company, calling his action the result of the, quote, rogue individual. It was the whole thing. Rich Energy never held up their side of the deal, probably because they had $700 in their accounts, and Haas got screwed in the end, having to finish out the season with one less sponsor. Rich Energy was taken out to court over the antler logo when they were forced to pay White Bikes $30,000 in damage, which they never got. Williams' Story was eventually pushed out of the company, and they rebranded as Lightning Bolt. But this actually wasn't the first energy drink debacle in Formula One in the 1999 seasons. A mysterious prince from Nigeria and a fake energy drink led to an F1 team going bankrupt. You can make this up. The 53rd season of Formula One started in 1999. Mika Häkkinen was defending his World Championship title with McLaren team. Michael Schumacher was recovering from a broken leg, and the Arrow team was trying to figure out their finance. Enter Prince Malik Ado Ibrahim. Prince Malik offered the Arrows $125 million to be a sponsor for a team that was as strapped forecast as Arrow's $125 million could completely turn their luck around. So team manager Tom Walkinshaw agreed to let the print back Rouse. The 99 season delivery that year was shared with Repsol, so the car was painted in half Repsol range and the rear half painted black with a T- logo. It's a very unique look. I'll give him that. Prince Malik could always be seen in the paddock with cameras surrounding him. He ate up the attention and didn't miss a chance to promote his brand T-. What's T-, you ask? Well, it was supposed to be an energy drink. It was supposed to be a motorcycle brand. It was supposed to be a lot of things, but it never ended up being much of anything at all. The plan was to debut the company in Formula One, then sell the branded product like energy drinks, motorcycle, and bicycles under the T- badge. They even plan on rebranding Lamborghini under the T- logo.
Hey, you want to see my T- Lamborghini? No. No.
T- were actually the third energy drink that sponsored Arrow in 4 years. The others being Hype Energy Drink and Powerhouse, which we somehow don't own the copyright to. Although T- did manufacture some energy drinks, they didn't make any money, and by the end of the 99 season, Prince Malik was nowhere to be found. When he was called upon to buy the rest of his shares, no one could get in touch with him, and his shares ended up being bought by an investment firm. Morgan Greenfield, who sued Arrows in return, the Arrows team had fallen prey to real-life Nigerian prince scheme, and unfortunately, the loss of this funding in other worlds led to the team shutting down in 2022. So what happened to Prince Malik? Well, he popped again after a few years to sponsor a NASCAR driver, but more on that later. One of the T- logo in this mirrored one reminded me of a more recent mirrored logo, the Mission Winnow of Ferrari current car. I actually think it looks pretty sick, but what the heck is Mission Winnow? Winnowing is the process of removing the straw from the grain during the milling process. Mission Winnow has nothing to do with flour mills. When you go to their website, there isn't much information. Not any useful information anyway. It's full of fake business term and it almost feels like a parody of a corporation. Just listen to this quote. Innovating and investing in an open dialogue, bringing people and business closer together, creating a mutually beneficial ecosystem. That Twitter sounds like a bot was programmed to jam as many corporate buzzwords into one sentence as possible. A little further digging, and I found out that Mission Winnow is pretty much a shell company from Philip Morris International or PMI. You know, the people that own Marlboro cigarettes. Philip Morris has been in Formula One for decades, so why is it Mission Winnow and not Marlboro? In 2006, the FIA banned tobacco sponsorship in Formula One. But since Mission Winnow is a new initiative that's not pushing tobacco product or any product at all, they're allowed to sponsor a car despite being owned by a tobacco company. Technically speaking, it's a CSR or corporate social responsibility. In layman's terms, Mission Winnow encompasses activities that are meant to improve the public standing of corporations by portraying it as a responsible member of society. Basically, it's a PR. This wasn't the first time that Philip Morris got SSX tricky with it though. F1 fans might remember the barcode logo on the Ferrari car from a decade ago. That was Marlboro's attempt at being subversive, but watchdog groups quickly called on standstill. It seemed like nothing more than vertical lines, but at high speed, the barcode resembled the Marlboro chevron. The Mission Winnow logo is actually just the Marlboro chevron on the side. It's the same dimensions, same shapes, everything. It's a way for Marlboro to stay in Formula One without actually being involved. A loophole that the World Health Organization is looking to close very soon. Last year, at the Australian Grand Prix, Ferrari was forced to remove the Mission Winnow logo from the wing because of Australia's strict tobacco advertising law. It wasn't just Australia either. Scuderia Ferrari was forced to remove Mission Winnow advertising for 11 of 21 races of 2019. It looks like their advertising strategies spurn out. It might be decided what's to come though. Ferrari isn't the only team with tobacco sponsor. McLaren is sponsored by Better Tomorrow, which is owned by British American Tobacco. McLaren also had to remove their advertising ahead of the Australian Grand Prix as well. It's lazy, but in a way, it's pretty brilliant. What Philip Morris is doing with Mission Winnow is guerrilla advertising. It gets people talking. I mean, how I'm making a video about it right now, day one clearly, yeah, this is from a video. Philip Morris put this huge intriguing logo on their car that has nothing to do with cigarettes. People find out about it, they got up arms about it, and Philip Morris get free advertising because humans are inherently curious. I mean, again, I'm talking about it right now. It's like when Radiohead put out the rainbows and years later someone realized it fit perfectly with a computer. Everything was based off zeros and ones, and it's exactly like that. During the Australian Grand Prix of 2018, viewers were puzzled by the iTime banner's advertisement. iTime was the title sponsor of the event, but no one had ever heard of this company before. At this conference, the CEO Magdalena Krumova described the all-in-one iTime app as world-changing, social, and up-to-date. Because that's what sells me on the app. If it's up-to-date, so what the hell is iTime then? Well, it's a pyramid scheme, and apparently they're still active, and what they actually do is still a mystery. Krumova actually started other pyramid schemes under names Lioness and Maywell, which also sponsored F1 for a bit, and Lioness were actually banned from doing business in Norway. If you can do business in Norway, I don't want to buy your product. There's no way I'm gonna buy your sales stuff. If there's one type of person that Formula 1 attracts, it's old guys with a lot of money. That's probably why one of the sponsors of 2018 Singapore Grand Prix was Sugarbook, a dating app that matched younger sugar babies with 3 older rich men. Although they never sponsored a car, Sugarbook was set to co-sponsor a party at a bar hosted by Williams' title sponsor Martini. That party would have been pretty gross, and had it not been cancelled, because it would have been a PR nightmare for Martini and probably Williams as well. For a billion-dollar multinational corporation, Formula 1 gets away with a lot of less than perfect behavior. It exists in this weird dichotomy, okay? On one hand, it's a world-class sport, second in popularity only to football, but on the other hand, you have a really sleazy sponsorship, cutthroat behavior, and sometimes a disregard for human rights, and unfortunately, it's been like that for a long time. This might be a little heavy and little controversial, but when the governing body of a sport is sometimes morally bankrupt, a shady sponsor doesn't seem like the end of the world, and that's probably why Formula 1 attracts so many of them. Anytime you have an organization worth billions, there's gonna be some shadiness if you dig deep enough. So whatever happened to Prince Malik after he got to Aero Team in 1999? Well, he popped up again in the US in 2005, this time to sponsor NASCAR Busch Series driver Robert Dickerson Jr. Allegedly, Prince Malik stole $750,000 from Dickerson's dad. And even though he was acquitted, Prince Malik was jailed in Texas for perjuring himself. This day, he's back in Nigeria, nowhere near the racing scene. Keep the hustle up, dude. Don't steal money. Look, I love Formula 1. I'm still gonna follow it. If it comes back to season, hopefully it will. I just think when you have so much money involved in one thing and the world's attention, there's ultimately gotta be some shady sponsor. Hopefully, I'm not on any Formula 1 blacklist. Hopefully, I could get invited to something soon. Follow NIJISANJI ID on Twitter at @NIJISANJI_ID, @NIJISANJI_ID. Follow me at Riksa Dhirendra. Subscribe to Riksa Dhirendra and NIJISANJI ID official channel on YouTube. We put out a video almost every schedule that I make on calendar. Check out this video about Formula 1 are up to speed. And finally, you can watch them up to speed on Formula 1 on be kind, don't steal money. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, jadi begitu. Ha. Terima kasih. Intinya apa? Intinya Formula 1. 1 tambah 1 2. Begitu. Ya, begitu. Intinya begitu. Ya sudah.